Welcome to the Raw Prospect Football Podcast. My name is Emmy Nixon. That is Michael Ween. And today we are covering Super Wildcard Weekend 2026. So what we're going to do today, there's a ton of predictions out there. So we're going to do it a little bit differently than what you might have seen before. We've got questions prepared about every single game, one or two questions, depending on the game. And we're going to go through, we're going to answer those questions and then predict the game. So still giving our predictions, but we're going to be covering our actually analyzing things in a little bit of a different way and zeroing in on some specific storylines as well. But before we get into it, make sure you've liked the video, make sure you've subscribed to our channel. Our goal is to eventually have a small community of football fans, NFL, college football. We also have a podcast called Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. If you're not familiar, go check that out. But yeah, we record twice a week here, and if you enjoy content that's it's not I don't claim to be an expert or anything like that. It's by fans for fans, essentially. So super laid back. We have fun over here. Make sure you're subscribed. But yeah, Michael, how are you doing, my man?
Well, I'm still not sure that my cardiovascular system has calmed down after Sunday night's game between the Steelers and the Ravens. We'll get into the Steelers, who, if you're new here, I am a diehard Steelers fan. Our subscribers and people who watch our content know that, but I'm still not sure that I have come off the emotional highs and lows from that game and the finish to the regular season, which I'm going to be honest, I feel like that Sunday night game, especially the second half of that game, was needed after some of the somewhat crappy football I saw earlier in the day. I understand it's week 18 and a lot of teams weren't trying, but there was some not so great football in the early window. But it got better as the day went on. But I'm doing well. I'm really excited for this weekend. We've got 5 straight days of meaningful win-or-go-home football starting tonight as we record this here on Thursday, January 8th, the Thursday before Super Wildcard Weekend. And I'll just say this. Outside of maybe 1 or 2 draft episodes that we do every year, the Super Wildcard Weekend podcast is maybe my favorite NFL podcast that we do each year. We've done it now for like 5 years running, and I just really enjoy breaking down these really important playoff games. So,
and it's gotten even better since they've made it. Added an extra game in each conference as well. But
exactly.
This would be a super fun one.
We're down to the nitty-gritty. We know one of these 14 teams is going to win the Super Bowl, but inside of those 14, we know there's probably like 4 that actually can win the Super Bowl realistically. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it. We're just going to go in chronological order in terms of which games are being played first, all the way up to the last game on Monday night. So that starts us off with the Rams at the Carolina Panthers. So this game, it's a 5 seed versus a 4 seed. Carolina, being the division winner, has the home game, but the Rams are a 10-point favorite on the road here. So our question that we've prepared is, what is the path to victory for Carolina? Michael, you first.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm rooting for Carolina. I have ties to Charlotte and where the Carolina Panthers play. I have family that lives there. So my personal rooting interest, even though I know the Rams will likely make for a better Super Bowl. Probably if they win, they're the team that everybody thinks can make a deeper run. I'll be rooting for the underdog here, which is Carolina. But the key matchup I'm watching, the first key matchups I'm watching for the Panthers, if they want to win this game, It starts with their receivers, particularly Jalen Coker and Tet McMillan, winning their one-on-one battles against these Rams corners, specifically Emmanuel Forbes Jr., who's had an up and down season. And the Panthers upset win over the Rams about 6 weeks ago now. They were going after Forbes over and over and over again. And whenever they needed a big play, they really targeted Forbes in man coverage. He gave up 2 long touchdowns in that game, a game where the Rams secondary struggled, a game which the Panthers won by 3. The key here is it's going to be even more important, though, for a guy like Tet McMillan, Jalen Coker, and these Panthers wide receivers to win in one-on-one battles because the Rams are getting healthy. They're getting a key piece of their secondary back activated off injured reserve for this game in Quentin Lake. He plays a lot of the nickel, and his versatility kind of frees up and allows the Rams to move some pieces around, shift safety coverage one way, tilt their coverage to help Forbes on that one side against Tet McMillan. So that's going to be important. But according to Pro Football Focus, Forbes is allowing the 8th highest yards per reception this season amongst qualifying corners at 15.3 yards per reception. Lake, again, the guy I mentioned for the Rams, is going to make his return after getting injured in Week 11. He's their nickel corner. He's going to make a difference for the Rams in the secondary in this game. But in order for the Panthers to win, they're going to have to do exactly what they did in Week 13, which was create explosive plays. And in order to do that, they're going to have Tet McMillan, Jalen Coker, 2 guys that really stepped up in that Week 13 game, do it again. And then the Bryce Young has to be efficient. He's had his ups and downs this season, but he had one of his most efficient games of the season in that game against the Rams. He was 15-20 for 3 touchdowns and did not throw a pick in that game. So he's going to have to be efficient and not set the Panthers offense back with negative plays, taking unnecessary sacks, and not turning the ball over. If the Panthers can run the ball efficiently like they did in that Week 13 matchup, I think things bode pretty well for them to compete late into this game because then they can control the tempo, control the clock. But ultimately what this is going to come down to for me is Bryce Young playing efficiently, the Panthers wide receivers making plays against the Rams secondary that's been up and down, I would say, in somewhat criticized this season at times. They're going to have to win their matchups, especially on weighty downs and in the red zone. And it would be really, really nice if the Panthers defense, which has a lot of young pieces, could force Matthew Stafford into a couple turnovers to create some short fields. That's going to be really important. 2 interceptions in that first matchup, I think they're going to need to do that again.
Yeah. And you hit on everything, honestly. The key things for me is they got to run the football really well. Like that was the thing in the last game, but particularly against this Rams team. And the reason why I give the Panthers like a 5%, like a 5 to 10% chance of actually taking this game somehow is the fact that the strength of their team aligns with relative weakness of the Rams, and that is their run defense. And the Rams' run defense, from a numbers perspective, is very good, but from a personnel standpoint, the Panthers' offensive line matches up well with the Rams' defensive line because the Rams have a lot of smaller, quicker defensive linemen like Braden Fisk, Turner, Byron Young. They can get pushed back against a huge offensive line like Carolina. So if they're able to impose their will in that way, they're going to have a chance in this game. The other key part of it that goes right along with the run game is time of possession. And that to me just points straight to third downs, key third downs. Can you move the change on the 3rd and 6s, the 3rd and 7s, when the Rams ultimately stuff your run game on 1st and 2nd down? Like, it's going to happen at some point, and Bryce Young is going to have to make those plays. And then you mentioned it. You got to get a turnover or two to flip this thing. They're at a major talent disadvantage. There's no question about it. The Rams are the more talented, the better team with the better quarterback. So they're going to have to steal an interception or steal a fumble or something, or make a play on special teams in order to flip this game.
Good news for Carolina is you're at home where your offense has operated way more efficiently than on the road this season. You already beat this team, so you know that if things go your way and you can create those turnovers, Bryce Young is efficient and you run the ball and control time of possession, you can win this game. That should instill some confidence in that locker room. But regardless, I'm taking the Rams to win. But that 10.5 line, if I was betting it right now, I'd probably take the Panthers to cover, even if it's like a backdoor situation where they score late. If I was betting it, I would take the Panthers to stay pretty competitive in this game. I think they'll play well. They're at home. Rico Dowdle's been an absolute beast for them, but the Rams are going to prove to be too much. They're getting Quentin Lake back in their secondary, and although the Rams aren't playing their best football coming in, like they lost the Seattle game, they lost, I think, 2 of their last 3 games. A really key piece of that offense is coming back, and that's Devontae Adams. And I just think the Rams will prove to have too much talent, and I trust the veteran quarterback in this situation to get it done.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think Carolina will cover because I like Dave Canales a lot. I like him as a head coach, and some of the stuff I mentioned about the run game. But we'll leave it at that. That was a good first conversation for that game, considering that's not the most hyped matchup of them. But now we're going to get into a little bit more further detail for some of these other games. Next is Packers at Bears. So in division matchup, a lot of history here, obviously. But the question that we have prepared is, which unit do you feel more confident in? The Packers run game or the Bears run defense? And I'll start off with this one. Well, neither have been great here as of late. The Bears defense has relied entirely on forcing turnovers. And from that standpoint, okay, like Jordan Love, he's prone to the occasional, interception here or there. He's prone to the occasional mistake. But just looking at this particular matchup, from the question, I have to lean slightly towards Chicago's run defense. I think I don't. I mean, Green Bay's run game, they've had plenty of chances to show signs of life, show signs that they can get back to the form that they were at last year. I still think Jacobs is a really good back. I still think Matt LaFleur is a really creative run game designer. But despite that, the numbers in terms of efficiency from their run game have not been there this year. Whether it be the offensive line, whether it be just anything. It's the execution hasn't been there as a unit, and I trust Chicago's run defense to hold this Green Bay run attack to under, like, I'm going to say under like 80 yards.
Yeah, I'll answer the question this way. I feel more confident. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good on my
I feel
end.
more confident right now coming into this game in the Bears running attack, Kyle Monungai and DeAndre Swift, with their interior offensive line going up against a depleted Packers defensive front. I feel much more confident in that matchup than I had the Packers winning their matchup with the Bears run defense, which hasn't been great this season and can be exploited at times. But the Packers have been really inconsistent on both sides, which is why they haven't won a game in a month. And part of that is because of the quarterback injury to Jordan Love. They had their third string Clayton Tune starting parts of the last 2 games. So I don't fully blame them for that, for this 4 or 5 game losing streak. But funny enough, like their last win did come against the Bears. I think Chicago is going to win this game because I feel much more confident that they're going to be able to control time of possession with their running game. And I'm not confident at all in this Packers defense with the last couple of performances I've seen from them. In 2 games, week 16 and week 17, after Parsons got hurt, excluding this past week where they lost to the Vikings because they were resting the starters. They were already locked into the 7 seed. It really matter. But in the 2 weeks prior to that, week 16 and week 17, they gave 457 total rushing yards. One of those opponents was the Bears, and the other was the Ravens. The Bears in that game ran for 150 yards, averaged 5.8 yard rush in that game. Green Bay's tackle room, to no fault of their own, but they're thin up front. Jordan Riley, who was the New York Giants practice squad to replace Devontae Wyatt, he was put on injured reserve after getting hurt on the road against the Ravens. The last couple weeks, they've been getting shoved around physically up front, blown back, huge holes are opening. They're not really tackling well at the second and third levels of their defense, at least not in the games that I've been watching. And it feels like no matter what alignment Jeff Hafley tries to get into to slow down the run, no matter what schematic goal adjustments that he's trying to make, there's just not a lot you can do when your defensive tackle play is this bad, like it is or has been for the Packers. And we all remember, well, before I say that, that'll be my last point. Week 16, week 17. Maybe the Packers run defense shows up this game, and I'll be wrong. History tells you the Packers will show up if Jordan Love's healthy, and they might win this game. I'll be wrong. But week 16, week 17, the Packers gave up 3.56 yards before contact on the ground. To put that in perspective, the Giants ranked last in yards before contact allowed this season. They gave up 1.95 yards before contact. The Packers have been giving up 3.5 yards before contact. They've just been getting physically run down on that defensive front, run on in the last couple weeks. I don't have a whole lot of confidence instilled in me that that's going to change in this game against one of the better graded out offensive lines in the entire NFL. Remember the first thing Ben Johnson did when he took over as coach this past offseason? What did he do? He revamped the entire interior of that offensive line. He went out and he got Joe Tooney, he signed Jonah Jackson, and he got Drew Dahlman. They were very aggressive in free agency in addressing the interior of the offensive line. And as a result of that, this is a Bears offensive line. Their run blocking grade is 3rd in the NFL, and they're 2nd in rushing success rate. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai have combined for a lot of rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. They're one of the best running teams in the NFL. So I could be wrong, but I'm taking the Bears to win this game. I don't think the Packers are healthy enough. This is at home, and I just feel like the Bears will do a better job against the Packers run game and Josh Jacobs than the Packers will do against the Bears run game. And so I'll take the Bears to win in a close one at home.
Nice. Yeah. I'm right there with you. I thought about flipping this, but there's just too much on the happening negatively for the Green Bay right now. Like there's just no positive momentum, and in the end, I settled on if Green Bay is to win this game, Jordan Love is going to have to play flawless because they're struggling to run the football consistently, and um, like the Bears defense is gettable from a yard standpoint, but they tighten up in the red zone usually, and they force turnovers. So Jordan Love is going to have to avoid those mistakes, and they're going to have to get touchdowns within the red zone because I don't think this Green Bay defense is going to be getting that many stops. So, I'm right there with you. I'm taking Chicago.
All right, let's move on to the next game, and we're moving on to Sunday, a triple header on Sunday. It's going to be the Bills at the Jaguars. And so our question here, Emmy, is what players, not named Josh Allen, are going to be X factors for Buffalo to go on the road and beat one of the hottest teams in the NFL in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I love this question because you look at Buffalo, you look at this game, and it's like, okay, this is like the perfect litmus test for Buffalo as to how far we think they can go. They're going to face a team on the road that is hot and just doesn't have many weaknesses, not many glaring ones really. So, in terms of answering this question, I think for one, Joey Bosa and Greg Rousseau defensively are going to have to get after Trevor Lawrence first and foremost. And part of that, of course, is going to have to be, forcing like getting them into those long third downs by stopping the run, which has been a struggle for them this year. But they have Matt Milano back. They have a healthy Ed Oliver. So from that standpoint, they should be able to hold up given the intensity of the playoffs and the desperation of the playoffs. They should be able to hold up okay. I think they're going to give up their fair share of runs on the ground, but in those moments when they're able to get Jacksonville into third and longs, they have to get off the field. Their third down defense, I don't have the number in front of me right now, but I saw this earlier today. Their third down defense has been really bad this year, just in general. And you look at their their numbers on third down defense in their playoff losses over the past few years. They're just as bad as well. So third down is going to be the big key in this game. And I point to the pass rushers: Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Joey Bosa. Offensively, it's pretty simple. I look at um, James Cook because if anyone's going to relieve pressure off Josh Allen, it's going to be him. He is the superstar that they have alongside Josh Allen. He's arguably the only other superstar they have on this roster. If I mean, you could argue for a few key guys, but a few guys here and there. But for my money, James Cook is the guy that has to have a big game, or just be able to take the pressure off in those key moments as well. The receivers, I think, will do enough. I think Josh Allen is going to put them in positions to succeed, but without a run game and Josh Allen having to do everything, it's going to be a struggle. So those are my three players.
Yeah, I would add to that for Buffalo, one of the hidden areas where Jacksonville hasn't been great this season on defense is against tight ends. Versus tight ends this year, they're 23rd in yards allowed and they're 23rd in touchdowns allowed. So it's not horrible. It's not something that's necessarily it hasn't been something that's like been detrimental to their success and their consistency on both sides of the ball, specifically on defense over this 8-game win streak. But if there is one area where you can find success against this Jacksonville defense, it is with the use of tight ends, as we've seen throughout the season. I think Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox are both going to need to play big, especially on third downs in this game. You have to help Josh Allen. Cannot ask him to do it all. But with all that being said, like the tight ends are going to be important just because I don't really believe that Buffalo has a single receiver that is going to come in and just win their one-on-one matchups with a really good Jacksonville secondary. I really like Khalil Shakir. Like if you get the ball in his hands, he can create after the catch. He's had big playoff performances before. But it's Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid for me, the tight ends for Buffalo, making big catches on third down and in the red zone, helping Josh Allen, giving him the outlets that he needs, which they've done a good job of all season. Like when Buffalo's offense is at its best, their tight ends are heavily involved. I think those two guys are really important in the pass game aspect of this. But Buffalo doesn't win this game if James Cook is held under 100 yards, in my opinion. He's got to have a big performance on the ground. They have to run the ball. They have to be able to match Jacksonville in time of possession. I think time of possession is going to be like a huge padlock stat in this game. A stat, in case you don't know what that is, it's a stat where if I tell you it today, you probably know who's going to win the game. Or if I tell it to you after the game, you probably know who's going to win the game. If one team has a big edge in time of possession, it probably means they get more opportunities at the red zone. Their quarterback's playing well, converting third downs, and they're running the football better. Those are the three X factors offensively, is the two tight ends and the running back. And then obviously, like, Josh Allen is kind of, if he's the best player on the field in this game and he plays like he has in his postseason career, Buffalo's got a great shot to win, even if they give up tons of points, because he's won shootouts in the playoffs before. And the good news for Buffalo, and the one slight concern I have from Jacksonville's standpoint, is Jacksonville hasn't necessarily been like the most dominant pass rush in the world. Slight concern for me on that side of the ball is the Jaguars are third in the league in QB pressures, but they're 27th in sacks. So they're getting good pressure on the quarterback, but they're not finishing. And if you don't finish against Josh Allen, if you don't get him on the ground, he can really hurt you in so many ways. Most of the sack production has come from three players for Jacksonville. Josh Hines-Allen, he's got 8. Trayvon Walker's got 3.5, and Eric Armstead's got 5.5. But I think they're going to need some more help from players around them, because Walker is playing a little banged up with a knee injury, and Armstead has a cast on a broken hand. So I think one thing Jacksonville has done a good job of, their defensive coordinator's done a good job of like disguising blitzes and simulating pressures to help create more pressure on opposing quarterbacks. But that's going to be a slight concern for me that I'm watching on Jacksonville's side. I think that's about it. I agree with you. Like, I think if Buffalo's run defense brings it in this game, I think they've got a great shot to win. But the thing is, we haven't seen any kind of consistency from them on that front. They're one of the worst run defenses in the league. And if the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing lately, it's one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league. If Jacksonville runs the ball, this game's going to be really hard to win for Buffalo. But that's kind of my spiel on it. What is your gut or what does your mind or your gut tell you in this game? Who are you picking?
I'm going to take Buffalo to win in a really tight one, tight thriller. Um, One thing I do want to say is I think special teams could play a factor in this game as well. The fact that
Absolutely.
Jacksonville has a kicker that can make kicks from like 60 plus yards is a huge weapon in a playoff
Yes.
setting. But I'm still going to take Josh Allen. I think there's a really good chance that in this coin flip type of game, the winner of this game has a really good shot at being in the AFC Championship game.
Yep. I agree with you. My prediction I had written down was Buffalo 27, Jacksonville 23. I think they're going to win by a field goal ish. I'm not betting against Josh Allen. And I just feel like it feels like to me Buffalo needs to come in with a sense of urgency. No Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes in these playoffs. There are no excuses for the Bills. And if they lose this game, it feels like bad news bears for what's going to happen in Buffalo this offseason. I just think Buffalo, I don't think they're going to lose this game. But I think Jacksonville, I would just hate to be a Bills fan right now because Jacksonville is as hot as anybody. And they're playing the best football of anyone in the AFC coming into this game on both sides of the ball. Like we know Houston has one of the best, if not the best defense in the league. But in terms of both sides of the ball playing elite football at the same time, nobody's been better than Jacksonville has the last 8 games. But I'll still take Buffalo to win.
Yeah, yeah, that you're so right, man. And Jacksonville is they're no joke. They're no joke for sure. Um, the pass rush part of it is what scares me for Jacksonville. I think, and from the standpoint of if Frank Campanelli has to be relying on disguising blitzes and blitzing Josh Allen, that's not a recipe for success. I don't think. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Let's move on. The next game here is the 3:30 game on Sunday, and that is going to be our last NFC matchup, which is the 6th seed San Francisco 49ers at the number 3 seed Philadelphia Eagles. We've got 2 questions for this game. The first of which is, what are the keys for the Eagles offense to win this game? And more importantly, go on a run and get back to the Super Bowl. Emmy, I'll let you chime in first.
Yeah. It's not breaking news, the stuff I'm about to say, but I'll try to share things that aren't as commonly said. Hopefully, for one, um, the obvious stuff is get Saquon Barkley going again. We saw it. It was maybe 2 weeks ago. It may have been against the Commanders. Maybe I'm not 100% sure which game it was where Barkley finally had a big game and got going. This team is they have the talent to make a run. They've gotta find a way to get production out of that run game. And then number two is, are we going to see playoff Jalen Hurts? And again, it's not super minute stuff. Like it's pretty obvious stuff. Like Jalen Hurts, his playoff resume is really freaking good for the most part. Like like his numbers outside of the Super Bowl are not, they're not going to blow you away. But the one thing that he has done always is he's not he's not turned over the ball, and he's gotten involved with his legs in the playoffs a little bit more. So are we going to see that version of Jalen Hurts where he's kind of a little bit more dialed in terms of reading coverages and getting the ball out on time? Because when he does that, this Eagles team is extremely hard to beat. Because the defense, we already know what the defense is. They're back on a roll again, and they're playing as good as they're probably playing as good or better than they did last year at this time of year. So it's all on the offense now. And if they're not able to win this game, it's going to fall on the shoulders of Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo squarely.
Yeah, for me, the key matchup here that Philadelphia has to win is their run game, and it involves Jalen Hurts. Like, I want to see the Jalen Hurts that takes off and runs, is instinctual in that part of the game, and I want to see Philly involve more design runs for him. But it's him and Saquon Barkley. It's the Eagles' run game, which has taken a step back, a significant step back this season from where they were last year against this 49ers too deep defense that they like to play. Eagles' run game, it's regressed, but they still created explosive run plays at the 10th highest rate in the NFL. Their offensive line has dealt with injuries throughout this season. It's taken a toll on the Eagles. They've had injuries to the receiving core, but that's no excuse. We haven't seen Hurts run as much on design runs. He needs to be involved here, but Saquon's got to get going. Last season, the Eagles had one game under 100 rushing yards, and it was in Week 18 when they rested pretty much everybody. One game the entire season where they were under 100 yards rushing. This season, they've had 9 games under 100. And they've struggled to run the ball against some of the league's worst run defenses. Washington, Buffalo, Dallas. And so we've seen the 49ers run defense struggle to stop the run here in the last couple weeks. So that matchup's going to be really interesting to me. They got to get some kind of ground game going. But Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts at home in the playoffs. This game is going to be played in Philadelphia. They're 5-0. In those 5 games, they're scoring 34.8 points per game. The defense has given up only 13.8 points per game. They haven't turned the ball over offensively in any of those 5 home playoff games. And their defense has 14 takeaways. That's where Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts have ultimately thrived the most, is at home in the playoffs. Their offense gets going. They dominate. They win by an average margin of 21 points in the 5 games they've played at home in the playoffs. So are we going to see that Eagles offense that's led by key plays made by Jalen Hurts with his legs on third down? Saquon Barkley creating explosive plays to get Philly into better field position and to get them into the red zone. And then A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and the tight end who I love, Goddard, who's been fantastic for them all season long. He's going to be key again. Converting third downs, going to be another key. But that's the matchup right there. If the 49ers can stop the Eagles' run game, which we've seen struggle and be up and down this season, the 49ers do have, I think, some playmakers, especially on the interior of that defensive line, that can maybe make it tougher for Jalen Hurts. The key for the 49ers is you want to get this offense into third and long. If you can do that, you'll have a good shot to win the game. But for me, I think Kyle Shanahan has done maybe his best coaching job this season. I mean, it all came down to a Week 18 game on their home turf to have a chance to get the number 1 seed, to have a chance to basically play at home through the Super Bowl if they were to make it there. Key for the is the Super Bowl is in their home stadium. It's kind of like what we're watching right now with Miami against Ole Miss. If Miami wins tonight, last time I checked, they were up 17-10. The national championship game is at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. That's where the Hurricanes play their home game. So they could be playing a home national championship game. Same thing here for the Niners. But they weren't able to beat Seattle. The Seahawks kind of wore down that run defense, especially in the second half of that game. I'm just not going to bet against I think Kyle Shanahan's did a fantastic job to have this team with as many injuries as they've had in position to snatch the number 1 seed in the last week. Awesome job by this 49ers team. But I'm not given. I'm a big historical trends guy. I'm a big statistics guy. I'm not going to bet against the Eagles at home in the postseason. When they have to go on the road, that's a totally different story. But I'm going to take the Eagles here.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this one so many times. I truly think this is another one of those just coin flip games.
Yep.
So I think I'm heading into right before the show, I was going to pick the Eagles, but I'm going to flip and I'm going to take the 49ers for a couple reasons. One, I really do think Kyle Shanahan is on a run of coaching and just in a flow as an offensive play caller that is pretty rare, man. I know they had a rougher time last week against Seattle, but that's a different type of defense. Seattle, obviously, they're doing not quarter four. Gosh, I'm in sales mode. Cover four, cover four stuff as well. As it's not the same as Philly with the Vic Fangio stuff. It's a little bit different in terms of how they match and how they disguise it and things of that nature. It's the same verbiage in terms of the name of the coverage, but it's not the same type of defense. So I do think Brock Purdy and the 49ers will have success in that sense. And I think Christian McCaffrey will have a big game. That's my prediction.
Could definitely happen. The one thing I will say for the 49ers, if your prediction comes true, I think it'll be because Brock Purdy is just ultimately, in my opinion, been the better quarterback for the last month or two of the season than Jalen Hurts. Yeah. He's been playing really well. Since he returned to the lineup, he's completing 71% of his passes for 16 touchdowns and 4 picks. The Niners have lost 1 game since he's been back, and that was to Seattle. I actually think that the Niners, if you say, based on their performances the last month of the season, which quarterback are you taking in this game? I would take Brock Purdy. If the 49ers win this game, what I'm saying is I think it'll be because Brock Purdy was just better, and this Niners offense was better, prepared, and executed better than the Eagles offense did. But it's not going to be an easy task.
Yeah.
Because the Eagles have been hot defensively. And so that's kind of the next key matchup is Brock Purdy. Can he execute and create those explosive plays with Jawan Jennings and George Kittle and what is the other tight end who's been fantastic for them this season? Tanji, is that his name?
Yeah, Tanji, yeah.
Can those guys be as good as they've been the last month, excluding the Seattle game? Nobody's really beaten the Seahawks. So I don't from a Niners standpoint, even though I'm picking them to lose, it's not necessarily because I don't believe in the way that they're operating or anything like that. It's just I'm betting on history, and that's that the Eagles find a way to dominate at home in the playoffs. But I think it feels like to me, just from like a general sense from where we've gone so far, that it could be a lot of the home teams winning in the NFC and maybe a lot of the road teams winning in the AFC. But that's just it's super unpredictable. But that's just
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah.
kind of the feeling
Um,
I've gotten so far.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, let's continue here. Chargers at Patriots. This is the 7 versus the 2. This is a really interesting matchup. And we've also got 2 questions for this one as well. First one being, is this the breakthrough game for Justin Herbert in the playoffs? And man, oh man, do I want to say yes to that? I'm not going to give away my position, like my not position, prediction straight from the jump, but I feel really good about how this Chargers team matches up with this New England team, um, particularly offensively, with where they currently sit in terms of the struggles that they've had at tackle. I mean, I don't think the Chargers could have hoped for a better matchup from that standpoint because New England, they haven't been a bad pass rush, but I don't think they scare you. Milton Williams is by far their best pass rusher. He's their guy in the middle. And without Christian Barmore with his off the field stuff, you look at it and it's Harold Landry, um, and who's kind of his play is kind of dipped as of late. Um, and really, it's not a whole lot else from a pass rushing standpoint. So, I think if to answer the question, I think this could be his breakthrough moment for sure. I think if I were to bet on it, I would say yes. Now, and I would say that even if they win or lose, I do think this will be a breakthrough moment for Justin Herbert, and I think he'll play well even in a win or a loss.
Yes, this is going to be, in my opinion, the best postseason performance of Justin Herbert's career. That doesn't mean they're going to win. It doesn't guarantee they're going to win the game.
No.
But I think this sets up very well for him based on the circumstances that he's been in all season long. We all know the Chargers' offensive line, because of injuries, has not been good. There's just no way. There's no real way to sugarcoat it, especially when you consider that Justin Herbert has been sacked 54 times this year, which is surprised me. That's only the third most in the NFL. But he's been on his back a lot this year. He's been pressured on 43% of his dropbacks. He's had to overcome an offensive line that lost both their tackles, has been playing on like their third and fourth tackles all year long for the most part. Has had to rotate in guys in and out on the interior. It's just it's a rotating door. It's bad on the Chargers front on the offensive line. The good news is Justin Herbert is fucking good. And they're going to face a Patriots pass rush, which, as you mentioned, isn't bad, but it's not elite. I'd be much more worried about the Chargers if they were facing Houston, or if they were facing a team like Jacksonville or Pittsburgh or someone like that. But this New England pass rush, again, it's solid, but it doesn't scare you. They're 18th in pass rush grade this season in the NFL, according to PFF. They do generate some pressure on opposing quarterbacks at the 10th highest rate, according to PFF. K'Lavon Chason and Milton Williams have been very good for them. But I just think that that's going to be – I think it's actually a matchup that the Chargers can maybe not win, but it's one of these matchups where I think the Chargers offensive line might be able to do enough to neutralize New England's front in the run game and in the pass game, because that's the one area where New England's been struggling the most the last couple of weeks is in the run game. Chargers offensive line actually, I think, stands a chance to at least neutralize that particular matchup and allow Justin Herbert time to make the necessary plays with his legs and with his arm. I think this will be his best performance. Does it result in a win? That just ultimately depends on how much you believe in New England, because some would say that they have benefited largely from a weaker schedule this season. And I guess that leads us right into our next question before we make our prediction.
Yeah. The next question is, are the Patriots a product of their weaker schedule this season? Now, I'll say this. Do I think that if they had a tougher schedule, they would still be in the playoffs? Yes, I do. 100%. I don't know if they would have the record that they have, but I do still think that even like it's hard to say, obviously, because it's a hypothetical, but even with a tougher strength of schedule, this is a good team. This is a good football team. There's no question about that. They beat the Bills. They competed with the Bills in that second game. They had a 23-point lead and then kind of showed their inexperience a little bit, letting them come back. But regardless, they are a good football team. There's no question about that. Now, whether or not this team is ready to contend, that's what we're focusing on here. Is like they're the number 2 seed, but it's also like they're so young and inexperienced in a lot of different spots. So, and also there's parts of their roster, since it's their first year out of this rebuild, first year like being good again, there's still parts of their roster that haven't been filled out yet because they didn't know that if they would be good or not this year. They didn't go all in. They didn't go get a pass rusher or anything like that, which is understandable. But that's where it's like, okay, like where is this team really at? So I'm kind of somewhere in the middle with New England, and I'll explain more when I make my prediction. But where are you at with it?
I'll put it this way. They had played a tougher schedule. I don't think they win their division. I don't think they're 13-4. But I still think they're easily in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're on a similar wavelength there. You can say to some extent that there may be a product from that standpoint of their weaker schedule. But you know what they're actually a product of? Mike Vrabel, who they hired this offseason. He's really damn good, in case you guys haven't realized. And Drake May playing at an MVP level this season. Those are the 2 reasons, in my opinion. Better coaching staff and MVP level quarterback play. When you have that, you can compete no matter what your schedule is, in my opinion. And Drake May, if it wasn't for maybe Matthew Stafford, that's a really close race right now. Stafford kind of dipped near the end of the season, but we won't get into that. They've got a young quarterback who has emerged as like one of the top quarterbacks, I think, for the next who knows how long in the AFC. So to me, they're just a product of like a star quarterback popping right before our eyes potentially, and a much better coaching staff. The whole Gerard Mayo thing, of course, was a total whiff, but they got it right. They got the coach and the quarterback right, and they're a well-coached football team. They've got good pieces all around. So like even with the tougher with a tougher schedule, because they did, like statistically, they did face a much weaker schedule relative to the rest of the league. But even if they had a couple more tough games put in there, who's not to say that Drake May wouldn't have found a way to win some of those? I don't buy into that whole narrative. I think let me ask you this last question before you make your pick. Do you think this New England season is still a mashing success, even if they don't win this game?
I do. Yeah. I think you got to put things in perspective. Obviously, Patriots fans are going to be disappointed if they lose because of the level of ball they've seen throughout the year and the fact that um, they've gone on this just like absolute tear of just destroying these bad teams that they're playing. Like that's the part that you got to give them credit with too. Is like they've played the teams that they've played and they've absolutely fucking crushed them all. So, um, yeah, like it would be disappointing for sure, but like I think Patriots fans would be able to put it in perspective. Like, hey, like we were in the playoffs, we were in a big moment, got experience for Drake May. Now we can go out and get a pass rusher this offseason, get some of those key pieces to fill out the roster, and then come back again next year with Drake May still on his rookie deal.
So, what's your prediction?
I'm taking the Chargers. To be as direct as as can be there. Yeah, man, I think it's all going to come down to the Patriots defensive line. Because if they can, you know, that pressure rate number, I think is the padlock stat here. Like if they can get the pressure rate up above like 60, 70%, the Chargers are going to have no shot. But if the Chargers can keep it below like 45, 40, then you're looking at a real game there. And that's the part where all of a sudden the pressure is on for New England, and LA would just be there kind of just like playing with house money. But yeah, there's always the chance of the Chargers charging. I know that, it hasn't been as much of a thing with Harbaugh, but it is still a thing until completely proven otherwise. So that does scare me a little bit, but I think Justin Herbert's going to be more motivated to use his legs than ever before in a big moment like this. He knows the narrative. He's tired of this. I think he's going to have a huge game.
Yeah, we're on the same page here. I'm tempted to pick New England, but I think I agree with you. I think the Chargers are going to get this one done. The Patriots haven't been good against the run the last couple of weeks. That's kind of one of my reasons for concern for them is they've kind of been a leaky run defense. From weeks 10 to 18, opponents are averaging 4.7 yards per carry and 131 rushing yards per game with 8 touchdowns on the ground. Leading into week 9, they're actually the best run defense in the NFL, but for whatever reason, they haven't been as good. Part of that is Milton Williams has been out. They were giving up only 75.7 rush yards per game on 3.6 yards per carry up until week 9. Since then, though, it hasn't been good. I think Amari and Hampton, who's healthy now, is going to be able to have success in the run game. Justin Herbert's going to have his best playoff performance. And this is just going to be one of those things where young team with young quarterback, new coach, successful season, knocked off the Bills for the first time in half a decade to win the division, played really well, maybe even played the Chargers down to the wire here. But the more experienced quarterback and a really good roster is going to find a way to win. This game could come down to who has the ball last. But I'll take the Chargers. But we'll see. We'll see. The winner of this game probably, well, if the Chargers win, they'll be the lowest remaining seed. So then they would have to go to Denver. And that matchup I don't like for them at all because of the Denver defense. But for today, I'll pick the Chargers.
Yeah, same here. Okay, so according to our brackets, down goes the 2 seed and down goes the 3 seed in the AFC. Now on to our final game of the night, final game of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be the Houston Texans at the Pittsburgh Steelers, a game that you are going to be at, by the way. You're leaving in the morning to go see that game.
Correct.
So we'll start with you then. The question for this game is, what is the path to success for the Steelers offense? What say you?
Well, a couple things before I get to that. I will be at this game on Monday night. It came together quickly. I'll be leaving early Sunday morning, and this game's Monday night. I'll be back on Tuesday afternoon. So I will be at this game. I'm very excited. Haven't been to a game in Pittsburgh in 7-8 years. I've been to other Steelers games, just not in Pittsburgh since then. So I'm really excited to be in Pittsburgh for their first home playoff game since that disastrous COVID home playoff game that they had back in 2020 against Cleveland. So this is like the first home playoff game with fans since I don't know when for the Steelers. And the good news for them is, if you believe in historical trends, Houston's never won on the road in a playoff setting. And Pittsburgh is 23-0 in their last 23 home playoff games. Haven't lost since Chuck Noll was the coach at home on Monday night. For whatever reason, I don't know. But if you're asking, do I believe in Mike Tomlin long-term for the Steelers? No. I think it's time for a change. Whether he gets fired or not, I have no idea. It's definitely not getting fired after this season. Maybe they don't extend him because he'll have 1 year left on his deal. But a lot of that could depend on the result of this game. Like if they win and they end up going on a run, he might get extended. But if you're asking me who's the best coach in the NFL or who's one of the best coaches in the NFL, it's Mike Tomlin on a Monday night. He's been really good on Monday Night Football. So if that matters to you, the Steelers might have more of a shot than you may think. But I'm really excited to be there. It's going to be wild. It's going to be freaking cold as shit. So hopefully I'm warm enough. But here's the deal. For the Steelers to win this game, they're going to have to bring the same level of intensity. What was the first question? Was it offense or defense?
Offense.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? What have the Steelers been doing offensively? The last 6 games of the season, a stretch where they're 5-1. Okay. They're getting the ball to, they're very limited from a playmaking standpoint, as we all know, offensively. They don't have, outside of DK Metcalf, they have no explosive playmakers at wide receiver, unless you want to consider Calvin Austin that. He's more of a gadget guy to me. They have good, this is a tight end and running back based offense. They won't have Darnell Washington in this game because he broke his arm. But what's been the Steelers' approach offensively? Get the ball out of A-Rod's hands in less than 2.5 seconds. Get the ball particularly into your playmakers' hands, Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. How did the Steelers win on Sunday night against the Ravens? What'd they do? They checked the ball down to Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren in the pass game, and they said, Ravens, tackle them. You can't. And they didn't. Jaylen Warren forced, I think it was 11 or 12 missed tackles. The Ravens were just horrendous tackling in the open field. If you're going to, the way to beat the Steelers offense really easily is to tackle well in the open field and not allow those checkdowns at the line of scrimmage to go for explosive plays. Because when they go for explosive plays, that's when the Steelers offense is, at its most potent. That's when Aaron Rodgers can go tempo, and his mind still works as good as any quarterback in the NFL. And boy, he kind of had a throwback performance on on Sunday night in that second half against Baltimore. But the keys for the Steelers. Can they replicate that against Houston? I'm not so confident. So what's going to have to happen? I'm not sure those checkdowns are going to go for as many explosive plays against this Houston defense as they did against Baltimore's defense and Detroit's defense and some of the other defenses they've beaten here in the last couple of weeks. Because what happened against the Browns? A really well-coached defense. The offense completely shut down. Now, that was without DK Metcalf. So to me, what this really comes down to is running the football effectively, which the Steelers have done maybe not consistently enough, but they can do it. They've proven they can do it. For them to have success on offense, it comes down to three things. DK Metcalf is going to have to win some one-on-ones down the field. When I say down the field, he's going to have to create some plays of like 15, 20-plus yards, at least a couple of them. Problem is, the Texans have an answer for almost everything Pittsburgh offense can throw at them. Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, those guys are fantastic. But DK Metcalf has to be huge. The way that he can make up for that 2-game suspension, which almost cost the Steelers their season, is by having just a big game in this game, winning his one-on-one matchups somehow. They're going to have to make the Texans respect the deep passing game, and he's going to have to make some plays. Number 2, even if the Steelers lose this game, what I will say is I think the development of this young offensive line this season, an offensive line that's playing really good football for Pittsburgh. Like, when the offense has struggled, it has not been because of the offensive line. Dylan Cook is a 4th-round pick who's come out of nowhere and played really good at left tackle in the wake of Broderick Jones' injury. He's been way better than anyone could have expected. And I think the Steelers have the core of their next great off. It's not great yet, but this offensive line's been solid. And I think they have the core of what could be a future like top 5 offensive line in the league. And Zach Frazier, who I think is going to be an all-pro center here in like the next 2 or 3 years, and Troy Fautanu, who's been one of the best right tackles quietly in the entire league. But the key is the tackles have to play well. If they don't play well, Pittsburgh's fucked. Because we know about Danielle Hunter and we know about Will Anderson. But can the tackles play well enough to just give Aaron a little extra second to get rid of the ball? They've played well so far. They played well against the Browns pass rush. They've played well against some really good pass rushes. They really were able to kind of take Aiden Hutchinson out of the game. Credit to Troy Fautanu there in Detroit a couple weeks ago. Like, this offensive line, even if the Steelers lose, the development of it, I will consider a win for the Steelers for this season. Some of the young developing players that we've seen. My confidence for the Steelers in this game is not like this offense is going to win their matchup against the Texans defense. I don't feel a ton of confidence on that side of the ball. It's kind of the other side of the ball, and just the fact that it's a home Monday night playoff game and the Steelers do not lose in that situation. I don't know. They're going to have to run. They're going to have to get Jaylen Warren the proper amount of touches in the run game. He's their best running back, despite what anyone wants to say about Kenneth Gainwell. He's their best running back. Get him the ball 20-plus times. Get the ball to DK Metcalf. Block the edge rushers and hope for the best is kind of all I can really say about this Steelers offense. And use Pat Freiermuth, please. He's really good. They need to use Pat Freiermuth in the middle of the field.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you touched on everything, so I'll keep this super brief. I mean, short passing game, the run game, and then 2, just managing the down and distance, just staying on schedule. If they can stay in 3rd and 5 and less, like that's a much better place to live in than, obviously the long third downs that this Houston team's just feast off of. But yeah, it's tough sledding against Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter. Will Anderson Jr. is probably going to be an All Pro this year. Probably second team All Pro if I were to guess.
If he isn't, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, real fast, the way the Steelers win this game is not their offense. It's the voodoo magic of Pittsburgh and T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and Nick Herbig and Alex Highsmith and Derek Harmon. It's the way they win this game is their defensive front has been really good, and like the Steelers have figured out their run defense. I feel confident that they'll be able to corral Nick Chubb. And who's the other running back for Houston?
Woody Marks.
Woody Marks. Like, I feel pretty confident with the way Cam Hayward's playing, and now that they had Eric Harmon healthy, I feel confident enough they'll do enough against the Texans' run game. That's not going to be the reason the Steelers' defense gets beat in this game. The reason they're going to get beat in this game is because I don't trust this secondary outside of Joey Porter Jr., who's played really good football this season. He's not getting enough respect. This Steelers pass rush has to get home on C.J. Stroud, and they got to do it fast. That's how the Steelers are going to win this game. They're going to get pressure on C.J. Stroud, force them into 1 or 2 bad plays, 1 or 2 turnovers, create a short field for the offense, and that's how that's their path to victory. Is the Steelers' front seven is just so dominant against a Houston offensive line that can be had at times against C.J. Stroud. They force him into a couple turnovers, and they don't allow him enough time to make plays down the field to Nico Collins and all these other explosive threats that the Texans have at wide receiver. If C.J. Stroud has time and he's back there reading the newspaper and he's got time to throw, miscommunications everywhere have been happening in this Steelers secondary. It's going to have to – it really comes down to T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, Derek Harmon. Can these guys have their playoff moment? I'll put it this way, and then I'll let you make your prediction. I feel more confident in the Steelers potentially pulling off a win here than I would have against any of the other wild card teams in the AFC. I wouldn't have felt very good against the Chargers. I wouldn't have felt great against who else? Buffalo. Definitely not Buffalo. We already saw that take place earlier this season. I just feel like this is going to be a low-scoring, closer game, and we've seen the Steelers go into Kansas City and get rolled. We've seen them go into Buffalo and get rolled. We've seen them go into Baltimore and get rolled. Like, see them go into Jacksonville or play Jacksonville and get rolled. The way the Steelers are finally going to win a playoff game for the first time in 9 seasons is the defense shows up. Because in pretty much every playoff game since they won their last one back in 2017, the defense has not shown up. So it comes down to Cam Hayward, Nick Herbig, T.J. Watt, who's coming off a collapsed lung, but played well on Sunday night, looks pretty healthy to me. Those guys got to step up and make some plays. But before I make my prediction, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm taking the Texans to win, but I'm right there with you, dude. I'm right. I literally thought the same exact thought you did. Like I think the Steelers got the perfect matchup that they needed in terms of their chances to win this game. Like I think Like, I'm not even that confident the Texans will win, to be honest. Like, I think TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, that defensive line is going to make their presence felt against that Houston O line. Like, that is a big time weakness to have in the playoffs. Like that, like there's no understating that. And that's Pittsburgh's entire strength. That's the best unit on their football team is their defensive line, their defensive front. So, yeah, I think I give the Steelers a shot for sure. They in past years, even if they do get the game to the fourth quarter, they haven't had Aaron Rodgers. And as limited as 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is, he still has that magic every once in a while. Like when we saw that last week. So it's in there. I give the Steelers like a 45% chance to win this game, and I'm not saying a lot because I do think the Texans are legit, and I think they're a really good football team, like an outside chance at winning the Super Bowl, honestly. But this is not the matchup that's favorable for them.
Let me be very clear here. If I wasn't going to this game, I would be picking Houston. But since I'm going to this game, and since I'm still somewhat on the emotional high of last week, and because this is purely like an emotional gut feel pick because I'm going to the game, is what I'm trying to say. And because contrast to in past years, like last year, where the Steelers went into the playoffs with really no hope at all. Like last year on the 4 or 5 game losing streak, the year that they started 11-0 and went into the playoffs, that COVID year, they lost 5 straight. They've had no momentum whatsoever their last 3 playoff runs. Like a couple years ago against Buffalo, it was Mason Rudolph at quarterback going into that game. There's just been no momentum whatsoever. They've played their worst football in December the last 4 or 5 years. This year, this is where they've arguably played their best football. Now, their best football isn't going to compete with some of the elite teams in the NFL come. We all know their ceiling is significantly lower than some of these other teams that we've talked about tonight. But like they actually have some momentum going into these playoffs. And so for just those reasons alone, and for the voodoo magic that I believe in here that's taken place with Tomlin ever since he got booed at home against Buffalo, the Steelers are 5-1, playing some of their best football. I just think Steelers will find a way, but I'm only saying that because I'm going to the game. If I wasn't going to the game, I would pick Houston.
Yeah, and dude, I honestly, I don't know, man. I have a weird feeling about this game. There's a part of me that just thinks TJ Watt has something up his sleeve, man. I don't know.
He could use it because he's been the collapsed lung thing was just I feel terrible for that. But the last 2 years I don't want to say he's in decline because he still makes a big difference for the Steelers defense because teams still double and triple team him, and it opens so many things up for their other pieces on this defensive line. Like he's still so important to the Steelers' success. But relative to like a couple years ago, he's not playing it. He hasn't been playing his best football the last year and a half. If you take it all the way back to like the second half of last year. So the one thing he's missing on his resume is a signature playoff moment and a playoff win. That's one thing the Steelers haven't gotten since he was drafted, surprisingly. So That's kind of the one thing he's missing. So maybe he does have something up his. He has to, or else this is going to be a tough game for the Steelers to win.
Yeah.
But he could also use it because what's everyone talking about right now? It's that Myles Garrett broke his record just last week. So if you have a huge game here and you win a playoff game, maybe you can silence that a little bit. But Myles Garrett, man, what a season he had.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Let's do parting shots. Maybe it's on the coaching carousel. Maybe it's something else. Just a quick parting shot, something NFL related.
Yeah, man. The Dolphins fired Mike McDaniel. Like what? Whoa! I did not see that coming at all. I thought Mike McDaniel was safe, and now, dude, this shit just got interesting. This is gonna be absolute cinema this offseason. My God, because the idea of Mike McDaniel ending up in Baltimore or something. I don't know. Or even like fuck, like even the fucking Giants. Like I don't want to see what he can do with Jackson Dart. Like no. Get him the fuck away from my division, please. Like no. Like as much as I had criticized Mike McDaniel in the past for, you know, like kind of questioning the toughness of that Dolphins team. But I think he proved this year that that was not him and that was just the personnel. So McDaniel is a really good head coach and he is not going to be on the market for long. I can guarantee you that. Like even like I don't know if he'd be willing to take an offensive coordinator job, but think about him as an offensive coordinator for like Buffalo. Like what?
That's kind of where I was. Is I think his next opportunity will come as a head coach, and maybe he'll parlay that into his next head coaching opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's at his best. Like, I don't doubt his abilities as a head coach. The Dolphins made the playoffs the first 2 years that he coached there. He did a really good job there. But he's certainly not a guy that I think if you're looking to win press conferences, well, maybe you do want Mike McDaniel because he's had some interesting moments
Yeah.
at the press conferences. But I believe in him fully as a play caller. One of the
For
best,
sure. Yeah.
one of the best offensive minds in the league. I take him in a heartbeat in Pittsburgh. I think he gets his next opportunity as a offensive coordinator, and then he'll parlay that maybe into his next opportunity as a coach, unless one of these desperate teams says, "Hey, like the Raiders, they pair their next young quarterback with Mike McDaniel." I don't know. You can never rule anything out with some of these franchises, but
I think Tennessee would be interesting.
that would be because they have the quarterback in place that he can work with. They've got some weapons. Yeah, Tennessee's not as bleak as I thought it was going to be coming into this season. Yeah, it'll be interesting. My parting shot was more so like the AFC North. We won't get into this right now. Like we'll have a coaching carousel episode at some point. But like I was kind of surprised the Bengals are deciding to keep Zach Taylor.
Me too.
I thought they might make a change there. I knew of the discussion around John Harbaugh. I knew that could happen. What I want to know on that front is like how much was because it's weird. Like the news came out. It was originally framed to me when I first saw it as kind of like a mutual parting of ways. But the way that it was framed in John Harbaugh's statement and the owner's statement, forgetting the Ravens owner's name. I should know his name. The way it was framed from the organization was like, no, this was not a mutual parting of ways. We fired that dude. I just wonder like how much Lamar Jackson played in this decision, if at all, how much say he has in that organization. And then Kevin Stefanski, I think he's really, really freaking good. And I think it showed with how well Shedeur Sanders played near the end of the season. I think that dude's a freaking fantastic head coach. I would not have fired him personally if I was Cleveland. I think there are some issues higher up in the organization that need to be taken care of. But they keep firing coaches, and there's one common denominator in all of it. But that's just my opinion. I personally wouldn't have fired Kevin Stefanski. I think that guy's going to get another job and be freaking terrific.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, one thing I'll say is I read an article earlier on the John Harbaugh thing, and reportedly it had to do with his unwillingness to fire Todd Monken, apparently, and because Todd Monken apparently he was butting heads with some people within the organization, and Harbaugh didn't want to part ways with him, so they decided to part ways with Harbaugh. So, yeah, I don't know.
So does that mean that Todd Monken's also fired now?
I would assume so, yeah.
Because I think that guy could one day potentially get a head coaching look. But yeah, I just think for Baltimore, like I texted you this the other day, and we can wrap up after this. Lamar Jackson, he's not old by any means. Like he's going to turn 29 this offseason. He's not old, but he's also not getting younger. And we've seen some injuries, especially this year was an injury-riddled year for him. And we've seen a trend with the Ravens to where they blow a lot of late leads throughout the last couple of years with Harbaugh. And I just think this is me making an educated guess. They want to take it's a big risk to fire John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Because that guy's going to go coach probably like the Giants or he's going to get his next opportunity here pretty soon. And he'll probably kick ass there. Like in an organization like New York or Tennessee or even Las Vegas, like these kinds of organizations that have been perennial losers for the last decade. If John Harbaugh goes into one of those organizations and he turns around the culture and gets that team to be competitive on a consistent year in, year out basis, and he gets that team to one of those organizations to the playoffs and is able to do a really good job, he'll be a freaking hero. But this is the Baltimore Ravens we're talking about. This is Lamar Jackson. You only have you got to capitalize on this opportunity. You haven't been able to get over the hump. It's a risk, but I guess for me, it's like maybe they felt like they've, because 18 years is a long ass time. Maybe they felt like it's time that we take a big swing. We've plateaued a little bit. I don't necessarily blame them for it, but it's also a hell of a risky move.
Yeah, it's really risky, man. My guess is they already have a guy in mind. I think they want Jesse Minter, is my guess. That's a guy who's already been in the organization. He's had really, really good success in Los Angeles. So we'll see, but I think it's probably going to be their targeting Jesse Minter.
Oh my god, I just think it's funny. Can you imagine like John calls Jim and he's like, hey, brother, I'm going to, like, I know you have this great defensive coordinator. Or it's just like, I don't know, like the Ravens, that's just a weird dynamic to me. But anyway, that's all I got. Hopefully the Steelers win. I'll let you know about my experience at the Steelers game on next week's episode. I would guess next week's episode will feature something similar to this, where we're breaking down divisional matchups and maybe talking about the coaching carousel even more. But yeah, that's about it. Maybe you can take us out.
Yeah. Until next time, y'all. This was a longest episode in a while, longest for a while. But peace out, y'all.